There was always a jar of something in your grandmother's kitchen. Something thick, dark, and pungent that she'd reach for the moment you complained about a sore throat, a scraped knee, or a restless night. You didn't ask what was in it. You didn't question whether it would work. You just trusted. Because in that house, healing didn't come from a pharmacy on Jefferson Avenue or the clinic 3 bus rides away. It came from knowledge passed down through generations, from hands that knew exactly what your body needed before you did. These 25 remedies weren't perfect. They weren't always scientifically sound by modern standards, but they were what we had, and they were given with love. They represented survival, self-reliance, and a refusal to be helpless in the face of illness. Our grandmothers became healers out of necessity, because hospitals in black neighborhoods were underfunded or non-existent, because emergency rooms were expensive and sometimes unwelcoming, because doctors often dismissed black pain as exaggerated or imagined, because the healthcare system wasn't built for our survival, so we built our own. These remedies show that when denied formal medical education, our ancestors created their own systems of knowledge. When excluded from institutions, they built institutions within their homes. When told their ways were primitive, they kept using them because they worked. Modern science is catching up now, confirming that many of these old wives' tales were actually effective. Research validates what black grandmothers always knew about honey, aloe, ginger, castor oil, steam therapy. Studies prove that their observations were correct, their methods sound, but this validation, while interesting, isn't necessary. Our grandmothers didn't need white-coated researchers to confirm their knowledge. They had something better, centuries of successful outcomes, children who survived and thrived, families that stayed healthy despite poverty, oppression, and systemic exclusion from quality healthcare. Today we have access to modern medicine, and that's a blessing. Antibiotics save lives. Surgery corrects problems. Emergency medicine handles crises. We shouldn't reject these advances, but we also shouldn't forget what our grandmothers knew, that healing begins at home, that nature provides powerful medicine, that care itself is therapeutic, and that community knowledge born from necessity is just as valid as institutional knowledge born from privilege. In those kitchens on streets like Auburn Avenue, Lenox Avenue, Central Avenue, and Martin Luther King Boulevard, in those homes where resources were limited but love was abundant, our grandmothers practiced medicine. They diagnosed, treated, and healed. They kept their families alive and healthy with wisdom, determination, and whatever they could find in the cabinet or grow in the yard. This wasn't just healthcare. This was resistance. Every time a black grandmother healed a child with home remedies, she was resisting a system that said black lives didn't matter enough for quality medical care. Every time she chose her own knowledge over a dismissive doctor, she was asserting that her wisdom had value. Every time she passed these remedies down to the next generation, she was preserving a heritage of self-sufficiency and strength. What remedy do you remember from your grandmother's kitchen? What healing practice did she use that you've never forgotten? What knowledge are you passing down to the next generation? Because this isn't just about nostalgia. It's about preserving wisdom that mainstream medicine is only now beginning to acknowledge and respect. It's about honoring the women who kept us alive when the system failed us. It's about recognizing that healing traditions born from exclusion and necessity deserve to be remembered, celebrated, and continued. Our grandmothers were healers, teachers, and warriors. They fought illness with whatever tools they had, and they won more often than they lost. Their legacy isn't just in the remedies themselves, it's in the lesson that we can take care of our own, that we don't have to wait for permission or validation from institutions that have historically failed us, and that sometimes the most powerful medicine comes not from a pharmacy, but from loving hands and ancestral knowledge. Remember these remedies. Honor these women. Pass down this knowledge. Because when we forget where we came from, we lose part of what makes us strong. In black households across America, from the shotgun houses of New Orleans to the brick row homes of Baltimore, from South Central Los Angeles to the apartments of Harlem, there existed an entire system of medicine that never made it into textbooks. This wasn't alternative medicine. For us, it was primary care. It was what stood between our families and suffering. When hospitals turned us away, when doctors dismissed our pain, when the cost of a prescription meant choosing between healing and eating, our grandmothers became healers not because they wanted to be, but because they had to be. They learned from their mothers, who learned from their mothers, in a chain of knowledge that stretched back across the Middle Passage, blending African traditions with Caribbean wisdom and Southern ingenuity. Today we're opening that cabinet again, not to romanticize the past, but to honor the women who kept us alive with nothing but faith, wisdom, and whatever they could grow in a backyard garden or buy for pennies at the corner store. Every cold in a black household started with the same ritual. The moment you started sniffling at Sunday dinner, your grandmother's face would shift from concern to determination. She wouldn't panic or rush you to the emergency room, partly because it would cost a week's wages, partly because she knew exactly what to do. She'd walk into that kitchen and start boiling water. You'd hear the pot clanging and you knew what was coming. By the time she returned, she'd be carrying a large bowl, usually the same one she made potato salad in for church picnics, filled with steaming water and at least 3 generous scoops of Vicks vaporub. "Come here, baby," she'd say, and you'd shuffle over already dreading it. She'd drape a thick towel over your head, creating a tent that trapped all that medicated steam. "Now breathe deep. Pull it all the way down into your chest." Under that towel, everything became sensation. The steam hit your face like a hot, wet blanket. Your eyes watered, tears streaming down your cheeks. Your nose ran like a faucet. The smell of eucalyptus and menthol was so strong, it felt like it was cleaning out your skull from the inside. 5 minutes felt like 20, but when she finally lifted that towel, you could breathe through your nose again. Modern medicine calls this steam inhalation and still recommends it. But black grandmothers didn't need medical journals. They'd been doing it since before there were clinics in our neighborhoods, since before our health concerns were taken seriously. The Vicks itself was a miracle in that distinctive blue jar, as essential to black homes as hair grease or Sunday church. It got rubbed on chests, throats, backs, even the bottom of feet before bed, sealed in with thick socks. Nobody could explain why foot application worked, but generations will testify it did. That blue jar represented accessible medicine. It cost maybe $2 and lasted months. It didn't require prescriptions, doctor visits, or choosing between healing and paying rent. When you saw your grandmother reach for it, you knew you were being cared for, and in a world that often ignored black pain, that attention itself was healing. Every black child who grew up before 2000 has a castor oil story, and none of them are pleasant. That thick bottle with yellow liquid sat in the cabinet like a threat and a promise. When your grandmother decided you needed it, there was no negotiating. Castor oil was the nuclear option. Constipated? Castor oil. Stomach acting funny? Castor oil. Growing pains? Castor oil massage. Hair thinning? Castor oil on the scalp. Some grandmothers would even have you take it internally while rubbing it on your chest for stubborn coughs. The taste was atrocious. Thick like motor oil, slippery with a heavy, slightly rancid flavor that coated your mouth and throat for hours. Different families had methods to make it tolerable. Some mixed it with orange juice, creating an oily, separated nightmare. Others used Coca-Cola or warm milk with sugar. Then there were grandmothers who believed bitter medicine works better. They'd hand you that spoon straight, no chaser, arms crossed until you swallowed. "It ain't supposed to taste good," they'd say as you gagged. Medicine that goes down easy don't work as hard. And it worked. For constipation, it moved things urgently and thoroughly. You learned real quick to stay near a bathroom. For external use, black women knew for generations that castor oil was magic for hair growth. While white-owned beauty companies sold expensive serums, black grandmothers rubbed Jamaican black castor oil into their granddaughters' scalps every Saturday night, promoting thickness and health. You'd sit between her knees while she sectioned your hair, warming the oil in her palms, massaging it into your scalp with firm, knowing fingers. "This is how my mama did my hair, and her mama did hers," she'd explain. "We've been using castor oil since before we were brought to this country. This is old knowledge, baby." Modern research now confirms castor oil contains ricinoleic acid, promoting hair growth, reducing inflammation, with antimicrobial properties. Dermatologists recommend it for alopecia and thinning edges, but black women have been knowing. While we were told our hair was bad, while we were denied quality hair care, our grandmothers were growing our hair strong with castor oil and love. That bottle represented self-sufficiency when the world denied us access. It was multi-generational wisdom, African botanical knowledge surviving the Middle Passage and persisting through oppression. When you had a cough that wouldn't quit, when your throat was raw, when you'd been up 2 nights unable to rest, that's when Grandma made the hot toddy. You'd hear the kettle whistling, smell lemon being cut, and know relief was coming. The recipe varied, but the base was always the same. Genuinely hot water steaming in a mug, a full tablespoon of honey, fresh lemon juice from half a lemon, and then with a steady, experienced hand she'd add whiskey, bourbon, brandy, or rum depending on family tradition and regional background. Now, giving children alcohol was technically questionable, but the amount was minimal, maybe a tablespoon, maybe less for younger kids. This was medicine, used with precision. Some grandmothers added cinnamon sticks or cloves. A few added a tiny pinch of cayenne for extra circulation. She'd bring you that mug, warmth radiating before it touched your lips. Sip it slow, let it coat your throat. The first sensation was heat, that alcohol-enhanced warmth spreading across your tongue. Then honey sweetness, coating and soothing. Lemon brightness cutting through. Beneath it all, that gentle whiskey burn making everything feel medicinal and serious. You'd sit at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around warmth while she watched and sometimes told stories. My mama used to make this for us when we were picking cotton in Mississippi. We'd be coughing from field dust all day. This helped us sleep so we could work again the next morning. That context mattered. This wasn't just a drink. This was survival medicine for people who couldn't afford to be sick, who couldn't miss work, who didn't have access to respectful medical care. Within minutes, warmth would spread through your chest. Your cough would soften. Your eyelids would get heavy. By the time your head hit the pillow, you'd be out, deep healing sleep your body desperately needed. By morning, the cough wasn't gone, but it was manageable. Modern science confirms honey suppresses coughs as effectively as OTC syrups. Lemon provides vitamin C. Heat soothes inflamed tissues. Small amounts of alcohol have mild sedative effects. Many modern cough medicines essentially replicate this formula, bottled with child-proof caps for $15. The original cost $2 and worked just as well. Walk into any black grandmother's kitchen, Detroit or Atlanta, Houston or Oakland, and you'd find that orange box of Arm & Hammer. That iconic box with the muscular arm was as essential as flour, sugar, or faith. But unlike those staples, baking soda served 15 different purposes, and half had nothing to do with cooking. For heartburn after heavy Sunday dinners, fried chicken, greens with ham hocks, mac and cheese, when that burning started in your chest, Grandma wouldn't reach for Tums. She'd grab that orange box, fill a glass halfway with water, add a teaspoon of baking soda. Stir it till you don't see the powder no more. You'd stir, watching white powder dissolve into cloudy solution. The taste was salty, slightly metallic, barely gritty, not pleasant. But Grandma would stand there, arms crossed, making sure you drank it all. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, relief came. The acid climbing your esophagus would neutralize. Your stomach would settle. Pure chemistry. Alkaline baking soda neutralizing stomach acid. Science now confirms sodium bicarbonate is an effective antacid. It's the active ingredient in many OTC medications costing $10, $15. Baking soda cost under $1 and lasted months. But its usefulness extended far beyond heartburn. Summer bee stings? Grandma made a thick paste of baking soda and water, applied it directly to the sting. The pain decreased, swelling reduced within an hour. For itchy mosquito bites, same paste stopped the scratching. Then there were foot baths for black folks who worked on their feet all day. Nurses, teachers, factory workers, housekeepers. They'd come home with aching feet after 8, 10, 12 hours in work shoes. Grandma would fill a basin with warm water, add half a cup of baking soda, sometimes Epsom salt too, and soak for 20 minutes. Those baths neutralized odor-causing bacteria, softened hard calluses from standing on concrete or walking in shoes that were what you could afford. More than physical relief, they represented permission to rest in lives with precious little time for it. Some black grandmothers used baking soda for teeth. Wet the toothbrush, dip it in the box, brush despite the terrible salty taste. It whitened naturally, freshened breath, helped gum inflammation. Modern natural toothpaste now listed as a primary ingredient. But black folks used it for decades first. That orange box represented self-sufficiency. While mainstream America bought separate products for each need, Black households used one versatile, affordable product for everything. And grandmothers taught daughters, who taught granddaughters, passing down not just uses, but resourcefulness, the refusal to be dependent on expensive solutions when simpler, cheaper options existed. In the backyard or kitchen windowsill of Black grandmothers' homes across warm climates, South Florida to Southern California, Texas Gulf Coast to the Carolinas, you'd spot an aloe vera plant growing strong. If the family had Caribbean roots, that plant was guaranteed. Thick, spiky, prehistoric looking, it sat ready to provide healing whenever needed. Aloe wasn't decorative. This was about function, having medicine growing right there, accessible without pharmacy, prescription, or explaining your pain to doctors who might not believe you. That plant was emergency care that never ran out, never expired, never cost more than the initial cutting from a neighbor. Kitchen burns happened constantly where grandmothers cooked big meals from scratch. Hot pot handles, popping grease, brushing against oven racks. The routine was immediate. Cold water first, then grandma would be outside selecting a thick, mature leaf from the plant's outer part. She'd snap it off with a practiced crack, slice it lengthwise with a sharp knife, revealing clear, thick gel inside. This wasn't watery store-bought aloe. This was fresh, viscous, incredibly soothing. She'd squeeze gel directly onto your burn or scrape it onto her fingers first, applying with gentle touches. Relief was instant and almost magical. The cool gel touched the burn. Heat began dissipating. Pain dulled from screaming to manageable. The gel created a protective barrier, sealing moisture, cooling injured tissue. Keep it on there. Don't wash it off. Let it soak in. Some grandmothers took the whole open leaf, placed it gel down on serious burns, wrapped it with gauze. You'd wear that natural bandage for an hour. When removed, the burn would be less red, less painful, already healing. Modern dermatology now documents aloe's healing properties extensively. Compounds that accelerate wound healing, reduce inflammation, prevent infection, minimize scarring. Burn units use aloe-based treatments. But this isn't new science. This is old knowledge finally being validated. What Black grandmothers understood, what they brought from Africa through the Caribbean to the American South, was that this plant was a pharmaceutical in a pot. They didn't need studies. They had centuries of observation and successful outcomes. Sunburns got generous aloe treatment. Grandma would harvest multiple leaves, fill a bowl with gel, apply liberally, reapply every few hours. By next day, what should have been painful peeling was just slightly pink, already healing. Caribbean grandmothers mixed gel with castor oil for hair treatments, added it to homemade face masks, even had you swallow spoonfuls for digestive issues, claiming it cleaned your system from inside. The plant itself became a symbol of preparedness. Having it meant you were ready for emergencies, could handle injuries without panic or expensive urgent care. It meant you'd thought ahead, taken responsibility for family wellness. And there was something beautiful about plant medicine connecting Black grandmothers to ancestral roots. In Africa, traditional healers used plants for every ailment, carrying vast botanical knowledge. Enslaved Africans couldn't bring possessions, but they brought knowledge, understanding of plants, natural healing, working with what grew from earth. That plant on a Chicago windowsill or Detroit house was more than vegetation. It was heritage, knowledge, refusal to forget where healing comes from. This remedy looked bizarre to anyone unfamiliar, but for deep chest congestion where you could hear rattling with every breath, where coughing brought up nothing but left ribs aching, the onion poultice was serious medicine for Black grandmothers. When congestion wouldn't respond to Vicks or steam, Grandma would pull out several yellow onions, peel and slice them into thick rounds, then heat them in a pan with a little oil, enough to soften and release compounds without fully cooking. The smell filled the entire house, sharp, pungent onion aroma making everyone's eyes water. You'd smell it from the couch and know what was coming. Grandma, not the onions, you might protest, but she'd continue with surgeon-like focus. Once warmed and softened, she'd spread onions on clean cloth, old dish towel, flannel, or gauze, arranging them thick enough to cover your chest, folding the cloth over to encase them completely. Then the application. You'd lie propped on pillows. Lying flat was impossible with bad congestion. And she'd place that warm poultice on your bare chest. Heat hit first, penetrating warmth immediately soothing to tight, painful lungs. Then the smell, stronger now, making eyes water, making you breathe deeply despite wanting to turn away. Breathe it in. It's working when you smell it strong. It's pulling all that mess out of your chest. You'd lie there, warm onion-soaked cloth strapped to your chest, feeling ridiculous, smelling like dinner preparation. The poultice stayed on 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes all night, though sleeping with raw onions strapped to you was special torture. But the congestion would loosen. That tight, stuck chest feeling would break up. You'd cough more productively, actually bringing up phlegm. Breathing became easier, deeper. By morning, especially if you'd slept with it, you'd wake feeling like lungs had been cleared out. Modern science found explanations. Onions contain quercetin, anti-inflammatory, sulfur compounds, antimicrobial, mucus-breaking, volatile oils, expectorant effect. The heat improves circulation, promoting healing. But Black grandmothers didn't need scientific journals. They learned from their mothers in knowledge chains reaching through the South, the Caribbean, possibly back to African traditional medicine using local foods as healing agents. The onion poultice represented willingness to use whatever was available, however unconventional. Onions were cheap, abundant, in every kitchen. If onions could heal, healing was always within reach regardless of economics or pharmacy access. Some made onion syrup for coughs, slicing onions, layering with sugar or honey, letting them sit overnight until juice mixed with sweetener created thick syrup. A spoonful, tasting better than expected, would suppress coughs and soothe throats. The social aspect mattered too. Making and applying it required time, attention, care. Your grandmother would sit with you while it worked, checking, adjusting, bringing water, keeping company. That attention itself was healing, being cared for, being the focus of her concern and expertise, being treated like your suffering mattered. After long days of work, or when growing pains hit hard, Black grandmothers would run warm baths and pour in Epsom salt. Soak for 20 minutes, let it pull the pain out. The magnesium in Epsom salt absorbs through skin, relaxing muscles and reducing inflammation. Science confirms this now, but Black grandmothers knew it when their backs ached from cleaning houses that weren't theirs, when feet hurt from standing in factory lines, when bodies carried the weight of survival. The bath wasn't just physical therapy, it was meditation. 20 minutes of quiet, warmth, permission to rest. In households where rest was rare, that bath was sacred time. Raw garlic was the antibiotic before antibiotics were accessible or affordable in Black communities. Earache, warm garlic oil dropped gently into the ear. Sore throat, garlic tea, despite protests. Garlic contains allicin, powerful antimicrobial properties fighting bacteria, viruses, fungi. Modern medicine acknowledges this. Traditional medicine has known it for millennia. The taste was brutal. The smell lingered hours, but infections cleared, fevers broke, bodies healed. Strong medicine for strong healing, Grandma would remind you. Some crushed garlic with honey for palatability. Others believed suffering through the taste was part of the cure, that easy remedies didn't work as well. Either way, that garlic clove was non-negotiable. Upset stomach? Grandma grated fresh ginger root, boiled it in water, added honey, made you sip slowly. The heat, spice, slight sweetness all worked together to settle what was unsettled. Ginger is scientifically proven to reduce nausea, aid digestion, calm inflammation, recommended for morning sickness, motion sickness, post-surgery nausea. But grandmothers used it for generations without waiting for medical validation. The ginger root sat in the crisper drawer, wrapped in paper towel, looking rough and knobby like the hands that prepared it. Inside was warmth, healing, relief. Drinking ginger tea meant sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm mug, while Grandma watched to ensure you finished. It was medicine, yes, but also care, attention, and love, made drinkable. A jar of Vaseline sat in every Black household, used for chapped lips, dry skin, minor cuts, sealing in moisture after baths. It was the universal protector. Grandmothers applied it to babies' bottoms, preventing diaper rash. They rubbed it on knees and elbows, combating ashy skin. They used it removing makeup or slicking down edges before church. Petroleum jelly creates a barrier locking in moisture, protecting skin from irritants. Dermatologists still recommend it. But for black families, it was more than skincare. It was dignity. Ashy skin meant you weren't taken care of. Vaseline meant someone loved you enough to notice. That blue jar cost less than $1, but solved 100 problems. Efficiency, practicality, care, all in one simple product. When cough settled deep in the chest, grandmothers made mustard plasters, dry mustard powder mixed with flour and water, spread on cloth, placed on chest. It burned slightly, but it worked. The heat from mustard stimulates blood flow, helps break up congestion. Too much could irritate skin, so Grandma always checked, adjusted. This wasn't reckless, it was precise, practiced, perfected. You'd lie still while the plaster worked, feeling warmth spread across your chest. Uncomfortable, but discomfort meant healing was happening. By the time she removed it, breathing had changed. Deeper, clearer. Witch hazel was the toner, astringent. Spot treatment in black bathrooms. Acne? Dab witch hazel. Razor bumps? Witch hazel. Minor cuts? Witch hazel. This plant extract reduces inflammation and tightens skin with antibacterial properties. Grandmothers kept bottles in bathrooms, using cotton balls to apply after washing faces or shaving. The sharp medicinal smell meant cleanliness, care, prevention. It stung slightly on open skin, but that sting meant it was working. In a few days, the problem was gone. Apple cider vinegar sat in pantries for cooking, but also healing. Sore throat, gargle with diluted ACV. Dandruff, rinse hair with it. Heartburn, tablespoon in water. The acidity helps balance pH, kills bacteria, supports digestion. Science backs this now, but grandmothers didn't wait for studies. They observed, experimented, remembered. It tasted awful, smelled like cleaning solution. But results didn't lie. If it works, you use it. Simple as that. Couldn't sleep? Feeling anxious? Grandma brewed chamomile tea, sometimes adding honey. Drink this and settle down. Chamomile contains compounds binding to brain receptors, promoting relaxation and sleep. Used for centuries across cultures. For black grandmothers, it soothed children after hard days, calmed nerves in difficult times. The ritual itself was calming, steeping, waiting, sipping. It forced you to slow down, sit, breathe. The tea helped, but so did the moment of pause it created. Fresh peppermint leaves or tea bags steeped in hot water answered stomach cramps, indigestion, bloating in black households. Peppermint relaxes digestive tract muscles, reduces gas, proven remedy for IBS and stomach upset. Grandmothers grew peppermint in backyard gardens or kept dried leaves in jars. The smell alone was therapeutic, the taste refreshing. Relief was real. Peppermint wasn't aggressive medicine, it was gentle, coaxing the body back to balance. The simplest remedy, warm water and salt. Gargle, spit, repeat. No fancy ingredients, no expensive bottles, just salt and water, working every time. Salt draws out fluid, reduces swelling, kills bacteria. One of humanity's oldest remedies. Grandmothers kept it alive. You'd stand over the kitchen sink gargling loudly while Grandma supervised. Not glamorous, but by the third rinse, pain had dulled. By morning you could swallow without wincing. A spoonful of honey, straight, no chaser. Sometimes mixed with lemon, sometimes warmed slightly. Always effective. Honey coats the throat. Has antimicrobial properties. Suppresses coughs as well as OTC syrups. Studies prove this. Grandmothers already knew. The honey jar wasn't just for sweetening tea, it was medicine. Unlike pills, it tasted good, felt comforting, carried the sweetness of care. Before emergency dental visits were possible in black communities, there was clove oil. A tiny drop on cotton ball, pressed against aching tooth. Pain didn't disappear, but dulled enough to sleep, eat, function. Clove contains eugenol, natural anesthetic and antibacterial. Dentists now use it professionally. But black families used it at kitchen tables, in midnight pain, when help wasn't coming until Monday. Some grandmothers gave children a spoonful of honey mixed with fresh lemon juice every morning. This keeps you strong, vitamin C from lemon. Antibacterial properties from honey, together supporting immune function. Not a guarantee against sickness, but a shield, a daily ritual of protection. Trouble sleeping? Grandma heated milk on the stove, added a pinch of nutmeg, made you drink it before bed. Milk contains tryptophan, promoting sleep. Nutmeg has mild sedative properties. Together they created natural sleep aid working gently, without side effects. The warmth of milk, the ritual of preparation, the care in the act, all contributed to rest. Sassafras root was boiled into tea, believed to clean the blood and improve health. While modern medicine debates its safety in large amounts, traditional use was moderate and seasonal. For grandmothers, it was spring cleaning for the body, a reset after winter, preparation for summer, part of a rhythm, respect for seasons and cycles. Cornstarch wasn't just for cooking. It soothed heat rash, chafing, and diaper rash in Black households. Applied as powder, it absorbed moisture and reduced friction. Cheaper than baby powder, just as effective. Another example of using what was already in the kitchen as medicine. That brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide sat in every Black medicine cabinet. For cuts and scrapes, Grandma would pour it directly on the wound. It would foam and bubble, a sight that both fascinated and frightened children. The bubbling means it's killing germs, she'd explain. The foaming was actually the peroxide breaking down, but it did clean wounds effectively, preventing infection in an era when even small cuts could become serious without proper care. Almost as dreaded as castor oil, cod liver oil was given to Black children for strength and to build you up. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D, it supported everything from bone health to immune function. The taste was fishy and awful, but grandmothers insisted. Modern nutrition science now confirms its benefits, but they knew it kept children healthy through harsh winters when fresh food was scarce. The final remedy wasn't in a jar or garden. It was in faith. Grandma's hands on your forehead, her voice praying over you, her unshakable belief that you would heal. Medicine couldn't measure this. Science couldn't replicate it. But anyone who experienced it knows there was power in those hands, in those words, in that absolute conviction. Healing wasn't just physical in Black households. It was spiritual, emotional, communal, and grandmothers understood that better than any doctor ever could. After she prayed, she'd often anoint your forehead with a bit of oil, olive oil from the kitchen, or special anointing oil from church. The combination of physical touch, spiritual practice, and unwavering faith created a healing environment that went beyond what any single remedy could provide. These 25 remedies weren't perfect. They weren't always scientifically sound by modern standards. But they were what we had, and they were given with love. They represented survival, self-reliance, and a refusal to be helpless in the face of illness. Our grandmothers became healers out of necessity, because hospitals in Black neighborhoods were underfunded or non-existent, because emergency rooms were expensive and sometimes unwelcoming, because doctors often dismissed Black pain as exaggerated or imagined, because the healthcare system wasn't built for our survival, so we built our own.